friends, faculty, students, and I want to start today by talking a little bit about Veterans Day. Not 1918 is when it all started. That was the day that World War I ended and was called Armistice Day. The next year, President Woodrow Wilson made a proclamation on 11/11/19 that Veterans Day would be recognized. In 1926, President Clovis did the same thing in the form of a commemorative, and he did it for Armistice Day on 11/11 that year and from there on. In 1938, it was passed into law as a national holiday. So Armistice Day, as it was known then, and was known for many, many years, as the day that, the recognition of the day that World War I ended. And although we were only involved in World War I for 18 months, we had a horrendous number of then in 1938, it became a law. It was Veterans Day was recognized. Armistice Day was recognized, and this was done by President Roosevelt. In 1954, realizing that there were other wars other than World War I, President Eisenhower set out a proclamation that it would henceforward be 11/11 known as Veterans Day, or Veterans of all wars. Okay, so Armistice Day became Veterans Day. And this was done by both the legislatures and the presidency. So it's kind of an interesting way that this thing developed. Later on, I believe it was in 1968, they added what they called the Uniform Holiday Act. And that said that, okay, we're going to have these holidays on 3-day weekends so that all the folks can have more time off and they can spend more money. Really? That was the logic. Well, okay. In 1971, the day for Veterans Day turned out to be October 25th. Well, guess what? Veterans, politicians, everybody else hated it. So President Ford put out a decree, given all those decrees. At any rate, it would now and forevermore be on 11/11. So that's why we're here on Tuesday, 11/11, 96 years later, for the end of World War. Now, it may seem a little bit like we talk a whole lot about people that died in wars and various things like that. And I think there's a bunch of confusion about honoring the dead and honoring the living. Memorial Day was started basically in the Civil War. Only it was known as Decoration Day because many people, basically mothers and wives, went to the graveyards of soldiers and decorated their graves. And it wasn't until 1888 when mothers and soldiers from the South and the North got together on Decoration Day. Later it morphed into Memorial Day. So Memorial Day is a day in which we honor the dead of all of us. And Veterans Day is the day we honor the veterans of all of us. So there is a distinction. Now, they asked me to talk a little bit about my experiences, which I really don't like to do. But I will talk a little bit about what it felt like going to war, going to Vietnam. Many of you may have known or read about a lot of folks didn't want to go. They went to Canada, they did a lot of things that would keep this from going forward. I can't necessarily blame them for their feelings. I had those feelings also. I mean, who the hell wants to go get shot? It's just not a normal thing to do. And I do have feelings for the guys that were in the trenches because, you know, it was hard for them to see. But needless to say, I went. And I thought, well, this is going to be something new. I went through training on the way over there, which I had gone through the same training 10 years earlier. I just finished school, so I had to go back through the training. Well, I thought, boy, this is going to be easy. This is neat. Time for my family. Well, it was. It was really nice. It lasted for 3 months, and then it hurt me. I went to. I got to tell this story because it's worth hearing. When I went over there the first time, or when I went over this time, we flew out of Travis, which is in California, on a airline, and it was a DC-8, a stretch DC-8, and I'll never forget this. There were 258 seats in that tube. Every one of them was full. By the time we got to basically the Philippines, where they dropped us off, it smelled pretty great. At any rate, the stewardesses were great. They passed out refreshment, so they took it a little easy. A fellow that went through training with me that I'd known for several years, and I kind of went together. We were on the same flight, and we were. There were 3 across, and in between us was a sailor. And this sailor was, I don't know, 2 striker maybe. And he crawled out smelling like a kid. I mean, he really, he was getting rid of his pain. Well, he landed in Hawaii. He woke up, got off the airplane, was gone for the 2 hours that we were on the ground getting refueled and so forth. And then we all got back on the airplane. He got back on. He did not smell like a gin mill anymore. He smelled like a distillery. So we went. We went to the Philippines. As we were approaching the Philippines, he woke up. We started talking to him. He said, well, you made this trip before? He said, I make this trip every week. He says, I'm a courier from the Pacific to Washington. And he said, every week, he said, this is the only way I can make a trip. He said, okay, where did you? That's that part. We then went to what we call snake school, which they start out by teaching you how to be miserable. They do a good job. The one thing that I learned from that is that the 38 pistol that was was worthless. We would have a tracer and shoot across the valley, where you could see the things going across the valley, and then went I wouldn't stay straight. Maybe not. Okay, I went to Vietnam. First night in Vietnam was we landed at Tan Son Nhut in Saigon. And I was an officer, so I had it pretty nice. Our tent had cots. That night, the BC welcomed us with mortar attack. We looked for a place to duck, but more guys got hurt during that mortar attack, falling over each other and furniture and ditches and everything else. We'd been better off which I learned to do as time went on. I put an extra mattress on my bed and one down beside it, so I just rolled up. Didn't get hit. The next day, I got to my unit, and there on it was combat line. The Battle of Docteau was kind of my baptism, and from there on, it was fighting those elements. Basically, what was happening was the North Vietnamese were infiltrating through what they call the Ho Chi Minh Trail and the various fingers from the trail. The trail went to North Vietnam, down through Laos, down through Cambodia, various fingers going into Vietnam. And they would go down there and take on these various outposts and so forth in preparation for attack. So we didn't know that at the time. Then I'm going to fast forward now because you don't want to listen to voice but got ready to come home and saved our airplane and headed back. It didn't seem like it was such a problem coming back. We left the camera on the bed and went and flew all the way to Seattle. This was in November. And I was summer in short sleeve and called off that airplane. Oh, God, where am I? What happened? I haven't been in the tropics for a year, and then a day that I'd like to take to call off that airplane. So I dug in my bag and brought a flight jacket that I had. Put that over my uniform. Stove it. And walked down the steps of the airport. We didn't have a place to work. Walked down the steps, walked across the field, and went through the gate. As we were going through the gate, we were recipient of a bouquet. And the bouquet was not like any today. Most of it was not. That really makes you happy. So, needless to say, I got rid of that uniform as quick as I could. Took out the summer jacket with a short sleeve shirt and cotton pants and put them on and got on the airline. Guys today are a lot better received and very, very happy. They're respected and honored as they well should be. I mean, for us sitting here in sofas and our armchairs and so forth, it may not seem like much, but to them, they've gone through. Those of you here that have been slow, and it just makes them feel good, as it should. So, thank all of you.